Welcome to This Explainer. The U.S. Surgeon General recently issued an unprecedented public health advisory, and it brought a hidden, deeply biological epidemic into the spotlight, one that is heavily impacting older Americans right now. For the longest time, we've treated loneliness as just a fleeting emotion, a temporary sadness. But recent data absolutely shatters that assumption. Today, we're digging into the hard science, proving that loneliness after 60 isn't just a feeling. It is a massive biological health crisis hiding right in plain sight. Okay, we are jumping right in with a staggering statistic that literally stunned the medical community. The Surgeon General's report concluded that the mortality impact of chronic loneliness is comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Just let that sink in for a second. 15 cigarettes. That means this lack of human connection is actually deadlier than obesity, and it's deadlier than physical inactivity. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover 6 key areas: the silent epidemic, objective versus subjective loneliness, the biological impact, the vulnerability gap, the medical blind spot, and finally, 7 proven strategies to fight back. Part 1. The silent American epidemic. The health risks of chronic loneliness rival modern medicine's most well-known dangers. We are talking about a 29% increased risk of heart disease and a 32% increased risk of having a stroke. But the one that really stands out is the dementia risk, a massive 50% increase. So again, we're not just talking about feeling sad here, we're talking about severe, life-altering medical events. Part 2. Objective versus subjective loneliness. There is a really crucial difference we need to establish here. Objective social isolation is basically just a head count of your social circle, right? The volume and frequency of the people you see. But subjective loneliness, that is the painful lack of emotional intimacy. It means you can be surrounded by your family in a totally packed room and still feel profoundly alone. And on the flip side, you could live completely alone and not be lonely at all, as long as you feel genuinely connected to a few important people. For Americans over 60, this frequently manifests as what researchers call existential loneliness. And this hits particularly hard when retirement removes a primary, lifelong source of daily identity and purpose. Imagine working for 40 years. You've got your daily schedule, your coworkers, your sense of contribution totally locked in. And then suddenly, it just stops. Many retirees report an unexpected, profound sense of identity loss that really drives this existential disconnection. Part 3. How loneliness damages the body. Now, let's explore exactly how this damages the body. Chronic loneliness mirrors a sustained physical threat. It literally tells your brain you're in danger, creating this relentless loop of elevated cortisol. And that chronic stress inflames your arteries, suppresses your immune system, completely ruins your sleep architecture, and actually physically shrinks the hippocampus, which, by the way, explains that massive 50% spike in dementia risk we talked about earlier. It goes even deeper than that. This biological reaction is so deeply rooted in our evolution that it triggers what scientists call the conserved transcriptional response to adversity. I know, that's a mouthful, but simply put, loneliness literally reprograms your DNA's gene expression. It alters your cellular blueprint to increase chronic inflammation and actively destroy your antiviral defenses. Your body is basically preparing for a physical wound just because you are socially isolated. It's wild. Part 4. Why older Americans are vulnerable. So what makes this age group so vulnerable? It is essentially a perfect storm of life transitions. Beyond the identity loss of retirement, you've got the widowhood effect, which is a well-documented, severe health decline that frequently follows the loss of a spouse. Add to that the geographic scattering of adult children moving away for careers, plus new physical mobility limits. And finally, there is generational stoicism. This is a generation that built its identity on self-reliance, right? They are incredibly reluctant to admit they need help, so they often just suffer in silence. Which leads us to a pretty glaring question. If this condition is deadlier than obesity, deadlier than a sedentary lifestyle, and equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, why on earth isn't your doctor asking about it? Well, the reality is a systemic failure in how we deliver healthcare. Medical appointments for older adults are notoriously brief and usually focus strictly on managing already diagnosed physical conditions. Doctors are trained primarily in pharmacology, prescribing pills, not in navigating social determinants of health. Plus, unlike depression, there's no standardized clinical screening tool for loneliness. And even if a doctor does spot it, there are very few concrete referral pathways to offer beyond a generic, frankly unhelpful, hey, you should try to get out more. Part 5.
7 proven strategies.
The uplifting news here is that loneliness is highly responsive to intervention. Researchers have pinpointed 7 evidence-based strategies that produce measurable biological improvements. These range from prioritizing deep, quality relationships to structured social participation, where you don't actually have to carry the burden of making the plans. Intergenerational connection and volunteering can restore that lost sense of purpose, while professional therapy is absolutely crucial when grief is involved. I really want to highlight a couple of these specifically. One of the most surprisingly effective strategies on this entire list is simply addressing untreated hearing loss. It sounds purely physical, doesn't it? But untreated hearing loss is an incredibly common, totally hidden driver of social withdrawal. Think about it. If you can't hear the conversation at the dinner table, you stop engaging, you pull back. Getting appropriate hearing aids removes a massive practical barrier to the conversational engagement that builds human connection. Another incredibly powerful intervention is pet companionship. And listen, this isn't just an excuse to spoil a dog or a cat, it's genuinely clinical. Caring for an animal forces daily routine, and crucially, it provides consistent physical touch. Science shows this contact measurably lowers cortisol levels and actually counters the biological cascade of stress. Essentially, a furry friend is doctor-recommended medicine.
Part 6, recognizing and taking action.
Because of that generational stoicism we talked about, we've got to play detective a bit and remain vigilant for subtle shifts in behavior. Look for withdrawal from hobbies they used to love. Notice if they're calling less frequently, or if they start saying things like they feel they are a burden. Pay close attention to sudden neglect of their home or personal appearance, or unexplained changes in their sleep and appetite. We have to empower ourselves to cut through the silence and compassionately ask direct questions, like, how are you truly feeling lately? The ultimate takeaway from the Surgeon General's report is that we absolutely must fundamentally change how we view socialization in later life. Loneliness is not a personal failing. It's not just some unavoidable part of getting older. Social connection is not merely a nice add-on to a healthy lifestyle. It is biological medicine, and it is every bit as vital to a long life as any pill a pharmacy can dispense.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Armed with the knowledge of how deeply and biologically loneliness impacts the human body, what specific action are you going to take today? Whether it's calling an aging parent, checking on a neighbor, or joining a volunteer group yourself, how will you bridge the gap and start healing? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take this medicine of connection into your own life today.